Welcome back to the Reseller Journey podcast. And in this episode, I'm going to be bringing on Dealing with Dalton, a shoe reseller, help giving us some insights and strategies that we could put in place to help achieve over $10,000 in sales per month reselling used shoes online. How do we do this? Let's bring him on and see what he has to say. What is going on?
What's going on?
Welcome. Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming on. Let's just get right into it because the people want to know, Dalton, how can you make money selling used shoes online? So what is the one thing you're working on right now to get better as a shoe reseller?
So at this point, I think the number one thing that I'm trying to focus on, being in the area that I'm at, I'm pretty blessed in the sense that it's not hard to find inventory. And with that, it's easy to not be super selective about what inventory is getting picked up. So I think in the past, I go through phases, obviously, but in the past, I've been kind of, I don't know if lazy is the right word, but focusing on picking up enough to hit my listing goal. And while haven't been picking up things that are bad, it's just I've been picking up, like some of the things I'm picking up might have a 90 to 180 day sell-through rate. When if I passed on that, maybe went to one more store, I could stick to everything under the 90-day sell-through rate. So that's kind of what I'm sticking to. I'm trying to work on right now because like both of those make sense, right? Just like in one hand, you can spend less time sourcing and get your consistent listings up and maybe have a longer sell-through rate. But if you just like stuck it out, grinded out the sourcing a little bit more, the sell-through rate could be better.
Yeah, I hear that, especially if you don't have as much space to work with, getting on top of those quicker sell-through rates. And it's going to be ranging from location, shoes here are $14, $18, sometimes $20 at the Goodwill. It's not a lot of meat on the bone. But we're all in different areas, so you got to find out what thrift store is going to work for you. So if you're just getting like started over and you're figuring things out, what is like something that you would be working on to help set up your store for success? What would be the thing that you're focusing on if you're just starting over and you want to just hit the ground running?
Yep. So where my mind goes with that is since we're selling in like, I know you do mainly clothing. I'm doing mainly shoes. And to people that come from the background of just wanting to sell everything, that seems kind of foreign because it's like two different, completely different businesses, right? Like the clothing and shoes from an everything seller perspective looks like a very saturated market. And it's like, how do you stand out versus those people that are selling things with like super high sell-through rates and all this? When you're selling in those saturated markets, you're competing for attention. So like whenever you're putting that listing up, if I'm getting started, the first thing I'm focusing on is how can I put together the best looking listing, whether that's because that's free. You don't need to upgrade anything. You can get some natural lighting outside. How can I make my listings presented better with the pictures as well as the titles? Learn the titles, learn item specifics in your category, whatever it is. How can I put together a better listing? It took me probably a year and a half into my reselling career to start taking that seriously. And when I started taking that seriously is when I really started seeing the growth. And that was free. You can start that today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Not just like going halfway, like doing the best that you can. Start off making the best listing you can, best photos, best title. And eBay gives us some of that information right off the bat, like how they want their titles done, how things should look. So that's some good stuff because I found that it's harder to go back and fix those things once you have 500, 1,000 listings. So it can be hard. So what are some things to focus on first and master when you're just starting out as a shoe reseller?
Yeah, I would kind of, I'm trying not to tie that into the last question because that kind of, I would say goes hand in hand, make sure that your pictures are standing out with the shoe specific category. I see a lot of beginner resellers get too hung up on like brand and model and BOLO and this and that. When they're looking at just brand, just model, they tend to pick up a lot of stuff that has flaws or is just a little dirty, or it's just there's something about it that there's a reason why you can't sell it even though it's a bolo, if that makes sense. There's with especially pre-owned shoes, condition is huge. So so if you're super focused on the brand, maybe take a step back and you're like, what condition is this actually in, and is this going to compete well with other listings that are available right now?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that on a live stream that it's really important to be picking up used shoes that need, minimal cleaning to just help not be spending time cleaning shoes, but getting them processed and listed. Yeah, so that can be key.
Yeah, and just to touch on that just a little bit more, in that live that you mentioned, the example I gave is whenever you're selling used shoes, that's already kind of a smaller buyer pool than the new shoes.
Right.
And whenever you're picking up shoes that are maybe damaged or just have like a slight defect, nobody's going on to eBay and searching used Nikes with a defect. You know what I mean? They're looking for used shoes that are still in good condition that they can get for a good price. So when you pick up that stuff that's damaged, that's kind of dirty, messed up, it's going to take you a really long time to find that right buyer that's okay with that.
Yeah. When I was doing shoes, I found that I was just picking up everything just starting out, and I was spending so much time cleaning. And just the amount of time I spent cleaning was the extra cost that I was getting, justifying the 30 minutes of, I had the screw attachment for the drill, and I just was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna do clothing. I'll let Dalton sell the shoes and whoever else, just because it goes into having a system and a process for this. You can't just be picking up a little bit of everything, which what I was doing, and you just really gotta focus on having a standard to being like, I'm gonna pass on this shoe because I know it's gonna take 30 minutes, an hour to clean it. So what are some tips on sourcing shoes? Like, how can someone with no experience go out and find something that can be an easy flip right off the bat? Where can they start?
I'd say if a good thing to pay attention to is like the shoes that you already see people wearing. If you see a lot of them, that means the market's big for them. And while that could mean, like in the case of Vans, for example, you see them every time you go out, but they have a low retail price and there's a ton on the market. So it's a low cost. Try to find that like sweet spot in this is a super popular pair of shoes. And I know I see people wearing this every single day, but it still has a good sell-through rate. You can get a good price for it as long as, like we talked about earlier, you're putting the good listings together so you can stand out in the search results. Doing that and then just slowly adding in new brands. Like you see something at the thrift store that sticks out to you, look up comp, and eventually you'll start building that repertoire of brands that you can know.
Yes. Yeah. And would you say like paying attention to the shoes that are selling in your store?
Yes, of course.
Try to go out and pick them up.
Of course.
Yes, so that's key, finding things that people are wearing. I know people will probably be like, why are you looking at my shoes? But that is a good little hack there to just see the trends, and you can kind of get ahead of some of the trends. If you're seeing stuff and you're like, wow, I'm looking at people's shoes, but that's what I'm finding is, constant repetition of, Nike, Converse, and then certain styles within those brands.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump into the comments. Miss Lachey says, hey, Bo and Dalton. How's it going, Miss Lachey? Hope you're doing well. If you have questions, we'll get to them throughout the live stream. Leave them in the comment section, and we'll get to them. So how important, like going off the last question, how important is it to have like a set brand list of your basic bread and butter brands that are going to constantly bring in money? And then, is that a way to set a foundation for your business? And do you have a brand list of brands that you always pick up no matter what?
For sure. I don't know that I'd say that the list of items that I'd pick up no matter what, like given good condition, is a lot smaller because like we mentioned, like there's so many different nuances within each brand. Like Nike's a great brand. The vast majority of my shoes that I sell are Nike. Like brand number 2 through brand number 5, add those together, and they still might not be as many sales as just Nike for me. But that being said, I can't just go out and pick up every pair of Nikes that I find, because all these shoes are coming out with new models every single year. And I think that like the psychology with the buyer is they go on to Foot Locker, they go to their mall or whatever, and they see that these shoes are retailing for $250 for just like some running shoes, but like they want that shoe. So they go on to eBay, and it's like they want to find the newest model, but for a good price. The amount of people that are looking for 6 years ago's model or 10 years, because we go into these thrift stores and we can find shoes that, like, you look at the tag, it has a date from 2004 on it, and nobody's really shopping for those anymore unless it's like the vintage hype stuff. So just the brand list is important, of course. I know the top 10, 15, 20 brands that I sell the majority of, and I don't have to look up comps on those. It's just, this is a good brand, I know this is a good model, I can pick this up. And that's just something you'll learn through selling, and definitely keeping up with the newer releases. Just knowing which Nike Pegasus we're on, knowing which Brooks Ghost we're on, and just trying to stick to those. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is so key, because they do come out so often with those new releases. Clothing's a bit different, in the types that I sell. You're not, Gap just released these new jeans, I need to head to the mall. And it's like, that's kind of, but with shoes, I think knowledge is really the key there, because you could be ahead of the game in if you're mastering, those release dates and those models that are coming out, you could be on top of it and command more money when you are listing those shoes. So are you listing shoes every day, and what happens to your store when you don't list every day? Do you see the contrast between the two?
Sometimes of course I'm trying to list every single day, have the goal. I lowered my weekend listing goal to try to give me some like time off. I'm only listing 5 on the weekends each day, and then 20 per day, Monday through Friday. And if something comes up, I need to make sure that I at least have 5 or 10 going up on those days. But I definitely, I'm human. There's days that I don't get to listing. And on those days, I wouldn't say that it's like your eBay store just falls off a cliff, if we're being honest. I do think that listing every single day is important, and don't take this as an excuse to not list every single day. But if you take a day off and then you just get back to it the next day, your store might see a little decrease, but you'll be back on the same path, at least in my experience. Again, I still think it's super important to list every day, but like I wouldn't get too hung up on it and beat yourself up if you just miss one day.
Right. Yeah. The sound of listing every day or your store dies, that can be really a hard task when you're just starting out. I always suggest for beginners to try one a day. Either if they're working a full-time job or part-time job, knock out 7 listings in one day and just launch one a day, before you go to work out of your draft bank. And having some kind of draft bank for when you get sick or, like you said, we're human, things happen. Having an emergency day where you can at least list stuff. But yeah, I can also say that if you miss one day, it's not the end of the world. I believe there's like a lot of stigma between, listing every day or you die. It's not the case, So if someone has an eBay store already and they're experiencing slow sales with shoes, what are some things that they can do to help convert those potential buyers into sales? What things can they work on to convert those already listings, but they're just not getting much traction?
Yeah, this question right here is why I think eBay is the best platform to sell on, because if we're talking about any other platform that I have experience with, at least, I don't know what to tell you. But on eBay, we have so many different options as far as if your listing's up and you're not getting any sales, you can do what we talked about earlier in the podcast, and you can fix your titles. You can fix your item specifics. You can take better pictures. If you've already done all of that, you can use their marketing options. You can run a coupon. You can do a markdown sale. Maybe you have them listed a little high. Go do some more research on the market and see if these aren't selling, maybe I'm just priced a little too high. Maybe I should bump it down. You can promote your listings. I know they're doing away with it, but the listing
quality report.
Yes, exactly. The value report. It will tell you the listing quality report. It will tell you the recommended promoted rate for your store or your category specifically. So take that and be like, okay, maybe if I'm promoting at 3%, it recommends 5%. Maybe if I try 5%, maybe I'll see some more sales. So they're just like little things like that. Promoted listings, send coupons, markdown sale, maybe send an email out to everybody that's purchased from you in the past year.
Yeah. And I believe you mentioned this the other day too, is like eBay really has the structure to be business oriented, more of those things like coupons, markdown sales, more of that business structure, where maybe some of the other platforms are more based on like ease, I just want to list my coffee mug today and my elephant stuffed animal, it's like eBay can be the way you can actually build a 6-figure business if you're doing and picking up the right things. So now let's talk about some wisdom and future ideas. What are some goals, maybe a vision that you have, maybe a strategy you're putting in place, and just touch on that a little bit, and then how important is that for your business and beginner resellers to kind of have a goal or some type of vision to help lead them along their path when they just get started?
Yeah. So right now, in the terms of reselling, my goal, this is something that I've never been perfect at because I'm not I'm not an employee. I'm not the employee type. That's why I do this. I am not great at following a schedule. Like if I wake up and I want to do something one day, like my mind is just wired to be like, I don't care about anything else. So right now I'm trying to get up earlier in the morning and get all my work done as soon as possible. And that's where having daily goals comes into play, the listing goals that we talk about, because before I really focused on daily listing, it would be, I'd wake up in the morning and I have a 200 pair pile of shoes that I just sourced yesterday. Why don't I try to clean and photograph all of those today? Whereas now it's like, why would I do that? I only need to photograph 20 and list 20, and then I can take the rest of the day off, because just like I mentioned, my brain just goes through these, like, I'm not interested in this. I'm interested in this. I'm interested in this now. So then the rest of the day I can like play with that stuff. I can do the other things I'm interested in, build more income streams, do YouTube, whatever it is. Narrowing down shortening the work day. That's the number one goal.
And then for a beginner reseller, they are attracted to the work from home. I get to work for myself. Would you say it's pretty important to have some type of strategy? Putting some thoughts to paper of like, hey, I want to do 1,000 a month this month. Like, how important is that? Because if you have no vision, how do you know where you're going? It's like, so like having a goal. Yeah,
exactly. I think that is so important, because like a lot of people will see people reselling on YouTube or on social media and they're like, I want to be a full-time reseller, but then they don't put themselves in the shoes of a full-time reseller and they don't know what that looks like. They will, start making a ton of money on the side. And then it's like, okay, I could probably do this for a living. And then the ones that are successful with it, will go full-time as a reseller. And then their day looks like my day used to look like, where they're just working from sun up to sundown. There's no structure because they don't know what they need to do every single day to hit the goals that they've set, because they don't have a specific goal. They don't have a monetary goal or a goal as to what they want their day to be structured like, because they haven't set that monetary goal and then broken that down to how many do I need to sell each day? If I want to sell this many, how many do I need to list this day? If I need to list this much, how do I source this much and not be sourcing every single day? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I found that nothing like disciplines your life more than having a goal or a vision set, because you can kind of tune in to know exactly what not to do. It's
Mhm.
kind of like when you walk in a store with a list, or when you walk into a bookstore with a book in mind that you want to buy. Exactly how to focus your attention.
Mhm.
And for me, that was key. I know, as much as I want to go roll around in the snow and jump off trees, I know that that's not going to lead me to providing for my family
Mhm.
and doing things like that. This is why I, very vision oriented, as far as like capturing it and putting it into place. So fast forward maybe 1-2 years down the road, where do you see yourself in your business? Do you see an employee eventually being hired, or maybe staying at the same amount you're at as far as listing?
Mhm.
Maybe a warehouse in the future? Where do you see maybe 1-2 years down the road in your reselling business?
I definitely think that the employee is going to be a must eventually by then. But I don't want to say that I want to like scale up and do like insane numbers. The
Mm-hmm.
Where my mind goes with that is the employees would just be to help maybe double the listing, not like quadruple the listing
Yep.
or anything, just so I, free up my time a little bit. So I
Mm-hmm.
can focus on like other passion projects.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think I could see myself running a warehouse full of shoes and like doing this for 20 years.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's the same
Yep.
brain that we talked about a minute ago. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back when I used to work jobs, I'd start a job and I'd be over it in 6 months, and then I just like check out of it, and that's honestly what I'm afraid of. Like looking at my life moving forward, it's like, when am I going to get tired of the job that I'm working, even though I'm my own
Mm-hmm.
boss? You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely need to uh, hire that employee. I will definitely have that done within those next 2 years, and then that'll free up a lot of my time, and I can start focusing on other passion projects.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say to people, eBay's a great thing to get going, but
Mhm.
I can tell you, you were born for more than just doing eBay.
Yeah. Yes.
eBay's a great, eBay, Poshmark, whatever platform, it's just a great way to multiply
Mhm.
resources,
Oh
multiply
yeah.
your money, and then
Mhm.
eventually get into the things that you want to do. You want to
Mhm.
write a book, you want to create a movie, be a public speaker, then
Mhm.
start shifting, more of that into what you really love to do.
Mhm.
And not saying you could give up on eBay, just
Right.
start thinking ahead. Hey, 5 years from now, I want to own a couple rental properties, or
Right.
maybe be speaking around the world about this topic or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's very good to hear you say that, because people think that, oh, I'm going to do eBay for 50 years. It's like,
Right.
you might want to start having different streams of income. So, last parting question, what would be just a simple tip that you can give to someone that's thinking about getting started into reselling, and they just really don't know where to start, what to read, what to watch? What can be a one simple thing for shoes, a shoe reseller? What can they do to like at least learn something quickly and then apply that right away and be successful?
Yeah. I would definitely say don't spend so much time preparing, like watching
Yeah,
every single YouTube video and
yeah,
every single this and every single
yeah,
that. I just, I did that, and I've definitely learned a lot from people on YouTube, and there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. I put out YouTube content. I want you to go watch every single one of my videos, obviously.
yeah.
But where I learned the most from like it being in my shoes, I learned the
Mm-hmm.
most from actually going out there and doing it. Picked up
Mm,
plenty of
yeah,
shoes that, took a year and a half to sell, but now I know I'm
yeah,
never going to pick those up. Picked up plenty of shoes that sold in a day, and I'm like, okay, did I underprice that? Like, do I need to look for these more
yeah.
often? And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
get out there, put in the reps, and figure out what works best for you. Because like at the end of the day, we're all in different locations. We all have different sourcing methods. We all have different, ways that we present our listings. And every single person on YouTube, their
Yeah.
way is correct. And everybody's way
Right.
can't be correct, but for them it's
Yep.
correct. So it's just like,
Yes.
learn what's
Yeah.
correct for you,
Yep.
and then just
Mm-hmm.
get started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, Quoting the Think Media podcast, start before you're ready. And that
Perfect.
kind of applies with a lot of things in life, is like the analysis paralysis, and you're like, one day I'm gonna do it if I just watch another 40 hours of content. And for me too, similar is like, you'll know when you go out sourcing over time, you'll know what brands not to pick up, and you'll know what brands are selling. And that just takes from starting, getting the ball rolling. So if you're afraid and you're fearful about starting, I say jump, take the leap of faith, and you'd be surprised on where you're at 2 years down the road. So Dalton, you make YouTube content. Where can people find you as far as like, are you on other platforms if they want to send a message to you? Do you have any products or services that you're offering? Where can people find you?
Yep. So I am dealing with Dalton across pretty much any platform that you want to find me on. I have a website, dealingwithdalton.com. It also links to all the platforms that I'm on there. But I also, if you're into selling shoes, I created my own line of shoe trees. It's what I use to photograph and clean shoes. So you can pick those up at my website. And if you want to reach out to me about anything, Instagram is the best way to do that, at Dealing with Dalton.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I appreciate your time. If you guys got value out of this, consider subscribing, smash the like button, and go follow Dalton as he's putting out probably the best shoe content on YouTube. And he does a live every Tuesday where you can hop in and ask any questions. So love y'all, and I hope y'all have a blessed rest of the day. Take care.
Peace.